Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing the stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. I'm your host, Eden, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be joined by a now three-time guest of this show, and somehow I still convince him to come back for more. Every conversation we've had has captured a different chapter of his own journey, and honestly, watching that evolution in real time, it's been fascinating because I know it's an area that people very much want to do what he's doing today. When we first sat down nearly 2 years ago, he was just at the beginning of leaning into content creation for his employer, posting consistently, finding his voice, and figuring out what it actually meant to show up online without sounding like a corporate robot. In our second conversation, we explored how that had evolved into balancing the two worlds of growing his personal brand while still championing the company that he worked for. We spoke about that awkward middle ground, the lessons learned, and how to make sure his own voice wasn't being diluted. Now we're in year three, and things have taken a bit of a turn, as I'm sure he'll share. He's carved out a career path that blends content creation with talent acquisition, and I'm going to say the phrase, even though he'll probably laugh at this, influencer. We're going to dig into, we're going to dig into how he's got here, what he's learned along the way, and how if this path is really something you want to follow, more importantly, how we can actually monetize it and pay our bills off of doing this. So when you're ready, grab your favorite tea or coffee if you prefer, and join me in welcome today's guest, Sean Kennedy. So thank you so much. Yes. Yeah. There is potentially another one. She will say yes to doing it. It's just time frame. So you two are my consistents every year, but you are the first 3 time. And who knows? Many, many more. As many years as this rolls on, we'll be old and grey and in our Zimmer frames doing this. We'll see. Ah, I love that. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I mean, obviously, before we get into monetizing LinkedIn and what we're doing today, but I guess from your side, you're obviously in that blend of talent acquisition, content creation. From your perspective, where do you feel like the biggest challenge we're going to face as recruiters is going to come from in the next 3 year time frame? Mm, mhm, mhm, So from your perspective, it's not necessarily AI in the topic, but it's more about those who are willing to learn with it, adapt with it, grow with it. That's going to be the biggest challenge that we're going to face as a the role as an industry. Right. Mhm. point. And actually, to be fair, it segues quite nicely. I'm recording a conversation next week, which is actually talking about bringing in the human element into your process whilst having AI. So that was completely unintentional. I feel like we've just made that happen. So thank you. But talking of your role, I asked you the question. This is a couple of weeks ago when we first caught back up. What the hell do you do now? Like, I mean, anyone who's been listening to the podcast hopefully will recognize your name as I think the first episode was 1 million impressions on LinkedIn without a budget from memory. And then your target the year after was 12 million in the year, but you did it in like 6 weeks or something like that. Um, and then now, obviously, year three, I'm hoping someone's going to sit there and go, Sean's back. But what is it you do? 30 million. Yeah, I think you had 12 million set for the whole year, and then we had the conversation like halfway through Q1. You're like, I'm nearly there. I'm like, what? So you clearly dropped off. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, no, no. Actually, right, a lot of things. So LinkedIn has really changed now in terms of like impressions and growth, and they've completely dipped because there's bigger value from like growing an audience of people who actually want to listen to your stuff rather than just spreading to the masses.
Mm.
But how I make money, I think everyone's always. I actually get asked this a lot, like
Yeah.
from it's like, how the fuck do you make money, John? It comes from a lot. So I've set up my own business 6 months ago, which is very heavily lent into the content creation side of things. I use it for every aspect of my business. So I put it into different pillars. So the first thing is like some fractional work, very minimal. Like I'm rarely doing any recruitment now, if at all, really. Like I'm still doing every bits and bobs there
If any of your customers are listening, he's doing it all the time.
all the time.
We
No,
just
they
have
know.
to, we just have to,
My
we just have to say,
customers
okay,
are,
fair enough.
yeah, my customers are like completely aware that I do very fractional, but it will make sense now why it's less. So
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff I'm doing for them now is creating content to give them visibility on LinkedIn because over the
Mhm.
past few years, my network has been growing and growing and growing of specifically TA people, recruiters. And that's done by design, not by fluke. That's me building something that I wanted to later try and monetize. And then off the back of that, some people don't want content. Some people are just looking for like, I want eyes on my product. I want demos booked. I want to get you in with, to see my tool or to see my. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? But they want to see they want to get good recruiters or heads of talent. They want to get like recruitment leaders to have a look at what their product's doing. So I do that for them as well on a retained basis. I'll make sure that they're seeing the right people because I have conversations with recruiters every single week. I probably speak to more recruiters now than I ever have done, which is just trying to understand their pain points. And then I've actually created my own TA diagnostic, which is basically you tell me what's going on in your life. I can break that down to you, what you should be doing. And to be honest, one of the answers even is you don't need an AI tool because some people just don't need them. They need to work on themselves and like some of their processes before they even start looking at AI tools. Because a lot of people now are just like, oh yeah, I need to. Let's just use AI. Why? You don't have a reason why. There's no point in using AI. Off the back of that as well, I also do like personal branding courses for companies. I've just been with the guys from Full Swing, golf simulation brand, indoor golf simulators. They were like, hey, can you come in? We want to do more on LinkedIn. Can you come in and teach our guys about how to build a personal brand so they can get like a very niche return of investment, which is like booking more demos, driving more sales, or just becoming more present online. And a lot of that is also back off is just through like the LinkedIn stuff, right? But everything I do is content focused, so I drive those demos based off the content I do. I create content based off of those brands, and that's basically how I make money. And then all the other events I do some other bits and bobs for customers. Like I'm at the point now where I'm not saying no to a lot of things. So I'm trying to see what else works for me. But that at the moment is like the biggest thing I'm doing at the moment. But it's all come from just like putting myself out there. It's not been a quick process, as you better than anyone know. It's been what 3 years in the making, or 4 years if we go that far back. And now,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that it's mental to think when you and I first spoke, the idea was how do we use content to drive your employer at that point, their brand, to increase their visibility, to make better placements. No idea that I was sitting opposite someone who 2 years later is sitting there telling me I'm doing branding for other companies, I'm doing content creation for other companies. Like that was never on the bingo card. But like I said, it's been
Yeah.
fascinating to watch because I mean, every year we have these check-ins to kind of see what's happening in your life and career. And there's a lot of people I know want to do things like this. When did you realize it was more than just posting online? Like you could actually build this into your career. You set it up 6 months ago in regards to kind of go full into it. But when was like that initial spark thinking, hang about, there's a bit more to this?
So I was this was like mid last year. I got laid off. Early part of last year, I got laid off from a company. The company I first started doing the content, when we first had our first conversation, right? Um, they made a huge amount of layoffs. I was part of that. Of course, I was part of the recruitment team, so don't need those. And then I had gone like contracting, right, and really had started to make some really bad decisions in where I went. In total honesty, like just trying to get contracts. The market was really difficult, but at the same time, I was still doing content. More and more brands were wanting to kind of do some stuff together, and I was putting myself out there so much more. So whilst in contracts, customers were like, "Hey, can you book us in like some demos, and we'll pay you X amount a month?" Whilst at the same time, other brands were like, "Hey, can you just make us some funny videos?" I was like, "Okay." But then more and more brands were coming together, and then rather than doing like a one and done post, I was selling in like a social campaign for them over a course of like 6 to 8 months, and that builds then money that I know is coming in, that I know I can work on. In that time, I know I can win new business, and I know I can work with other people. So it got to a point last year where I was in another contract, and I was like, you know what, I'm really not enjoying this. I'm not enjoying being hands on, like as I was. I felt like I was back in agency, because it was like it's an embedded model, and it screamed agency to me. And I got nothing against agency, but that part of me died a long time ago. Like I'm not an
I mean,
agency
it's
recruiter anymore.
people have different preferences to what they want.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally fine. That's totally fair. If you want to do that, then you do you, boo boo. But for me, it's not that part of me anymore, and I really enjoy the TA side of things. But I love the world we live in, like the TA world, but maybe just in a different aspect. Because I love talking about TA. I love like keeping on top of what's going on in our industry and speaking to people like on a daily basis. Like this morning alone, I've spoken to about 5 different TA people, just having a conversation on what their pain points are, and then having conversations with my customers to link them up together. Like it's like professional people connector at the moment through content or conversation. And I've just thought, I'm really going to lean into this now, and I decided to pull the plug. Contract was coming to an end, so I'm like, all right, cool, let's just leave it there then, and let's crack on and just get into this world. Because if I don't do it now, I'd have never have done it. It was a big leap of faith. I still had some like money in the bank from when I was laid off. I thought, do you know what? That's my little cash cow, just in case anything
Mm.
goes wrong. And I haven't looked back. It's been brilliant. It's opened up so many more opportunities for me now because I'm so much more active. I'm not having to worry about what other people think, because you are limited to what you can do in a role and post online. I had a last contract I was in. I won't mention where because it just sound like a catty bitch, but that's not me. Um,
It's all right. I'm pretty sure people can check LinkedIn.
yeah, fair enough. That's such a good point. But I was basically speaking with one of the bosses, and they were like, "Guys, we need to be, careful about what we put online." Um, and they're like, "Well, this is on like an onboarding call with like members of the team, like my whole business kind of thing." And it was like, "Sean, I'm specifically talking about you because you did a video last week where you're talking about a 6-stage interview process. Just bearing in mind, our customers have 6-stage interview processes." I was like, "Well, that just sounds fucking awful. Like that doesn't sound like a me problem. That sounds like a stakeholder management problem."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Also, I'm not really sure being called out in front of everyone is probably the right way to integrate you into the company.
Correct.
Mm.
That was my feelings behind it anyway. So then stuff like that started to happen, and I had spent so much time. I took a load of time off where I was focusing on doing my own thing before I went into contract roles. I really, really enjoyed that time being my own kind of person, do my own thing. And then when I went back into a role where it was quite, I'll be honest, it was quite micromanaging, like,
Mm.
leading by numbers kind of thing. And that's not my kind of style. I know some businesses lead like that, and some businesses have to lead like that. Cool, but that's not going to be somewhere I'm going to work. And yeah, came to it, and I was like, right, now's the time.
How has creating the content changed? You mentioned more opportunities, and I've also got my own slight perception on this as well, because obviously, I put myself out there quite a lot with
Yeah.
the marketing. So I'm curious to see kind of how it has opened up more doors for you. How is it more organic, or does it just start a better conversation when you do the cold outreach? How's your kind of experience with it?
Well, because your personal branding is all about like how people are going to view you when you're not in the room, right? So, as an example, I can dictate what I put out, so I can build my own personal brand. So it goes out there so much. I'm not saying everyone will know who I am, because that's a very egotistical thing to say. But like, I like to think I've built a good network of people who are familiar with maybe a funny video I've done, or something I've put out online, or like podcasts like this I've done, where I've just spoken very honestly about like who I am and what I do. So then when I go and have those conversations with people, it's like, oh yeah, I know of you. I don't know
There's
you,
some
but
more familiarity between it.
yeah, like they're like,
Yeah.
this guy, he's not abrasive. Kind of, I feel his vibe a little bit. Like I get who he is, and it just became a case of then of like doing some outreach to these people and be like, hey, look, this is what I do. This is what I'm looking to do. Do you want to work together? Do you want to have at least a conversation? And then there's more and more opportunities come up when you're so much more open to just having a conversation. I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who's looking to do more of this stuff. And they said, well, how do you get these brand deals? How do you get like working with these customers? I said, well, if I was to sit here now and just keep posting what I was posting, a few out of, let's say you do 10 a year, you probably do a lot more than that, but 10 a year, one to maybe two of those are going to inbox you. You need to be on the forefront of that, being like, hey, I'm a content creator, this is the impressions I do, this is my audience, this is why it's specific to you, do you want to work together? Let's go and do it. And that then becomes so much more powerful than having to sit around and wait for stuff. As much as opportunities do come to you, great, but you've got to also do have those a bit of outreach as well. But for example, I spoke to a company the other week. I'm not sure if I can mention company. I remember.
I'll probably say no, just in case you got anything going on with them.
Yeah, I'll probably leave those. But like, so I spoke to a company last week. They're flying me out to a very hot location at the end of the month,
Very nice.
for an event, just to come and check out the event and do some bits with them, in the future.
And that's the influencer part coming out here. No
That's
longer
that
sitting in no longer sitting in front of the comic books. Now I'm going onto the plane, and are you gonna do the come get ready with me recruiter edition?
I might do.
Please do.
I'll dress like a dad. No one wants to come get ready with me. They were
And
like, all right,
you gotta do like when you grab the tea at the hotel and do that
oh,
stuff.
all right.
Yeah, ASMR.
Recruitment
It, it,
ASMR.
it
Offer
is
it.
interesting because I'd say please don't whisper things into my ear. It is interesting because I think so. I post heavily. I mean, you see what my side as well, and we spoke about this. I think actually in the second episode where my engagement is obviously drastically lower than yours, and we had this discussion where obviously as an internal versus the external world, and you've tried it when you did external as well, and it just didn't really match. It has definitely improved in some regards. Niching down helped,
Mm,
um, and now I would say every month, 2 months, there's definitely inbound opportunities coming to me where they've seen what I'm posting, they understand what I do, and it's started to click a lot more.
yeah,
And that's taken obviously a long time to get there. But I think from your side, what I tend to find is that people find posting on LinkedIn. Let's just use LinkedIn. People post on LinkedIn is like a cringe-worthy thing, right? And
mm,
I've got a friendship group that when I post, within 2 seconds, you can almost guarantee I'm being taken a piss out of. It's just the same. My
yeah,
response always is this business. Like I'm here to do a job. I enjoy the podcast. I enjoy posting. As like this is part of my job. I'm having fun. So take the piss as much as you want. It's when they put my face on other people's faces. That's the part I'm like, kind
yeah.
of probably need to stop on that part. But
I got called the
there is that element.
I got called the Joe Wilkinson of LinkedIn the other day.
Joe
Uh,
Wilkinson, who's that?
the postman from
For
Afterlife.
me, the comedian.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's brilliant. Oh,
I
the
love it.
voice.
because we do look very, very similar as well. And
Now
we
you've
sound
just said
the
it, the voice. Yeah, the voice. I mean, he does look homeless
same. Yeah, I mean,
in
like sort of
most of
spruce
the
myself
things
up.
he does.
Yeah,
He's fantastic. In Afterlife, it is no, it's not Afterlife.
he's
Is
a
it
postman
Afterlife?
in Afterlife. Yeah,
It is Afterlife. Yeah, he was brilliant.
yeah, fantastic. And I was
Great.
like, is this an insult or is this? Because
I mean,
I think
I
it's
would
weird.
take that. He's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
But like,
And
there's an element of the cringe-worthy post, and it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to see how I'm perceived. My perception is, who gives a fuck? Just post it. Little people are going to see it, and then you keep building, keep building, keep building. But it holds people back. So for someone trying to build their brand today, from your perspective, someone who's done it and still doing it, what's more important? Consistency, personality, niche expertise. What is it that's kind
I'd
of like
say
going to start that process?
I'd say if you're too afraid to start posting on LinkedIn, fine. There's more opportunities for the rest of us. If you don't want opportunities knocking at your door, or you don't want to make a bit of extra cash, or you don't want to like work in owning your own life, like, then cool, don't. You leave more opportunity for the rest of us. And yes, there is cringe. There's a friend of mine who used to work at LinkedIn, Alicia Tell. She says the same thing all the time, that you have to climb over a cringe mountain to get to where you want to be in the land of opportunity. And she's absolutely
Like that.
spot on. Of course it's cringe. I've got my mates that rip the shit out of me. I walked into my local pub the other day, the White Horse, and my mate was pretending to take photos on his phone, going, "All the influencers here." I just thought, you prick, because it's a pub full of old men, and you try to explain to them what it is I do for work, and it's like I've just started speaking tongues to them, and they're like, "Oh, cool. So you work on your phone, do you?" I was like, "Yeah, that's it."
Yeah, you know they're the tradesmen that are
Well,
just literally
their
bending
their
steel with their
name,
bare hands.
they're all nicknames and names that they do. So that one of the guys is called Tires. Guess what he does for a living?
I
The other
reckon he
guy,
sorts cars out on motor, like the
yeah, no,
engine.
you're absolutely spot on. You know, the other one's called Carpet, or Paul Carpets, because he does carpeting. And what's me, Sean, LinkedIn Sean, or something like
Calling the
that.
TA guy. That's
Sean
what
the
we're calling
TA
you,
guy,
isn't
yeah.
it?
But
That's brilliant.
consistency is one of those other things as well. Like, I joke around when I say like there's more opportunity for the rest of us. More so, I would love for there to be more people on LinkedIn that would start doing more stuff,
Mm.
because it is fantastic. Like when you can start creating some cool stuff and people start to recognize it. But that only comes from being consistent. And to be consistent, you need to ignore some stuff as well. Like at first, vanity metric. When people start
Yeah.
looking at likes, comments, even impressions to a point, impressions are referred to as a vanity metric by marketers. I was in a room the other day full of CMOs from Pizza Hut, Monzo, and they said impressions are a vanity metric. We need to see what we're getting back from that return on investment of actually posting. And the same goes for me. Like, how many conversations have I had off posts? Those are meaningful. How
Mm.
many brand deals have come from, like, or engagements have come from my potential customers? And what am I having, being able to book stuff in for my customers as well? And that comes from just like pulling your socks up, not being afraid to, like, oh, I'll post flops. Don't delete it. Keep it up. LinkedIn does this weird thing where it'll come back to a post every so often. What's To be honest with you, what you post today. So if I post something today, I can guarantee you everyone has forgotten about it by the end of the week, or like within 2 days. So your friends might see it and give you a bit of shit, or you're worried about someone seeing it that you don't want to see it. But I promise you, they've already forgotten about it within like 24 hours to 48 hours, and then you create the next thing. But then when you're consistent, though, the images start to then stay in their brain, and then
Mm.
you're building an audience of people. You continue to kind of repeat images. It's just like I don't think of it. It's familiarity, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You're just there, and then they're like, okay, this guy's recognized. This is what he's about. I know that now because I've seen so much of his stuff as well. But if you do it post once and something didn't work well, and then you don't post again, you're not going to build that familiarity, and they will forget about you. And it's painful, but you just got to keep doing it.
Do you think there's been a situation where your content has worked against you, in the sense of like maybe it didn't hit how you thought it would be perceived, and maybe you lost brand deals out of it, or maybe opportunities that were closing that didn't happen?
I probably lost like brand deals. I'm not aware of them. if I have lost any. People have probably gone up against. I've probably gone up against certain other people, and they've probably just gone with others because they had a better brand or better like personal brand or a better network, which is it happens. But I don't think I post anything. I purposely don't post anything too wild to LinkedIn. I
Not
don't.
going controversial.
Yeah, like I don't talk. That's the polite conversations at parties. Don't talk about religion, politics, or
Mm.
what's the other one? Religion, politics, or relationships. I don't know. I can't remember which one it was. But a lot of my stuff is just I say the things that people think, but want to say but don't say them. So like, but particularly around the corporate world and the TA world. But I say it in a way that isn't too offensive, isn't too in your face, but it's still enough to keep you there watching. Because it's funny, it's relatable. I like to think it's funny anyway, but that's
I
still.
mean,
That's still
yeah, I laugh. I laugh at them.
oh, good. Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, they are funny. They are funny. You, obviously, your content, I would say, you have a very specific style now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say it's more like short form video content. It is like more comedic content. Obviously, I've known you over this 3-year window where that has changed, and I've seen you trial different things. How did you kind of land onto this point where you thought, okay, I'm seeing results here. I think this is working, and you lent more into it? Because all I really see you post now is that style content. I don't really see anything outside of it.
No, that's exactly it. Like I had to see what worked for me. I had to experiment, and you look back on all the stuff that actually worked. You run your LinkedIn, your analytics through ChatGPT. What worked for me? What's worked well? Look at my posts. Which ones have worked well? And then you'll start to see, okay, this is a pattern. Okay, well, I'm just being myself on video. People seem to kind of enjoy that more, or like it seems to cut through more noise than. I tried the whole thought leadership thing, right? Me trying to like pretend like I knew exactly what I was talking about, like I was an expert. Fact
Yeah.
of the matter is, there are no experts in recruitment or TA because it's constantly evolving. So anyone who calls himself an expert is a liar. Catch some heat for that later. But it's one of the things.
Don't want to share anything controversial, eh?
Yeah, to be fair. But like I've always said, like there's no experts in this, and it didn't. I like sharing information every now and then. I still do, but you'd be absolutely right in what you said that you'll see more of my comedic stuff or like the trying to be funny stuff because I like doing more of that because it's more me. Like I've said this in probably every conversation I've had with people when they ask who I am and what I'm up to. I'm not a serious person, as you well know. Like I don't take much seriously. Funny enough, I do take like how I do content seriously, but it's not fun. It's not serious stuff, if that makes sense. It's such a contradiction of itself, isn't it? But that kind of stuff really works for me. It cuts through the noise because LinkedIn in general, as much as I love the platform, it's full of a lot of boring stuff. It's full of people trying to be those thought leaders. It's full of AI posts, that can clearly everyone can see has been written by AI. I've got friends who can barely string a sentence together, and I love them to pieces. But all of a sudden, they're writing War and Peace on LinkedIn. Like
eloquent professionals.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, have a day off. Like, I saw you try to eat a kebab for a box the other day. Like, and now you're going to tell me you've written that on LinkedIn. Like, yeah, all right. So then I'd rather be myself and just go through all the stuff that I like to talk about because it's real, it's authentic. As authentic as it can be, obviously, I play characters in some of these things like an idiot, but I love it. It's what I want to do, and when you love something, I think it does genuinely show, and people will tune into that kind of stuff as well.
I mean, you can see it in the content you share, and you can see it in the conversation we're having now. I'll guarantee if you look back into year 1 and year 2 conversations we had, yes, you was enjoying hopefully the chat we had, but you sound happier, dare I say, now in this talking about your career. Whereas I felt like maybe even before it was like, this is where I think I should be doing to help the business. Whereas now you're like, I love this. Like I'm dressing up as the characters or whatever. Like you can see it. I mean, again, please, I'm going to put the other 2 episodes in. I really do urge others to listen to it because the other 2 episodes were brilliant as well from a actual TA perspective on how to do content whilst employed. Like I said, this is that journey. They are so so information heavy that are really good. But like I said, this conversation, the one like you can see from a mile off how you are.
Well, it's really weird because that's how I learned to love this, was from those things. So like I'd worked for a startup. The startup didn't have visibility. And like to give this is like basically a rundown of that in a really short period of time, those last two episodes. I worked for a company, didn't have any visibility, and I wanted to create content on them on LinkedIn to help drive applications. So I'd create stuff around the benefits of the business, talking about like what they were doing, all that stuff to help
Mhm.
drive engagement and to help them get the visibility they wanted. It worked. It started going really well. But then I started kind of twisting the content into talking about how the benefits affected me as a person. And I'd create content around my life and how that was impacting me. And I started talking about myself and kind of building my own personal brand that really started to kind of escalate and escalate. Then I started adding more of myself into my content and more of who I was, who's just a class clown. And then when that really comes out, it's fantastic, and people were just like, okay, well, this is what we're going to engage with now. And I found out I love doing this and doing what I do now. I've got like a great bunch of clients I work with, got other great customers I collaborate with, and I write scripts for them about like what the content could look like. I've got one doing next week, which is out of recruitment actually. It's for a company that sell technology or bits of tech like consoles, laptops. But I can say their name, right?
I mean, it's your customer.
Yeah.
You
I
can
mean,
do
I'm working with a company called Raylo next week, so you can buy like a PlayStation 5 off there, like, and pay an
right.
installment. So what we kind of do is I wrote them a script on how it could impact my network, right? So the whole script
Mhm.
is based off, me trying to get a laptop when I'm doing onboarding, but they've just given me a notepad and pen, and there's a whole like funny sketch around that, like where's my laptop? It's like, oh sorry mate, we're skint, like that kind of thing. And then they're like, oh cool, we like that kind of pitch and that idea because that will fall quite nicely within your world. And that for me, like that whole creative thing is really brilliant. And then I feel very much like to sound very cheesy, like my cup's full up, and
Mm.
I'm my boss. I own my own time now. I can put the effort into areas where I need to, as I need to, and yeah, dude, it's just completely changed from where I
Your
was.
life.
Like, first. Yeah, it's nuts. We just spent the
It,
last
it's
month in. Me and my kids, my wife spent the last month living in South Africa. We were there. I was working there, doing what needs to do. Really enjoy life, spending time with family, whilst creating content, but for brands and myself. And it was class, mate. I'm not sure I think I'll ever go back to what I was doing before unless this all
you
crumbles really badly.
never going back to TA leader, never going back to hands on.
Probably not, mate.
We'll
To be
see.
honest with you.
No, I mean that does lead into my last question, which is, what does year 4 look like for Sean Kennedy? So
Hmm.
where do we go from here? Because, like I said, you've gone that full circle. Employed, the personal brand, self-employed, fully into the content world. What's the next step look like?
I think it will be working with a longer list of customers, like in terms of like what I'm doing now in the sales side of things. But I'll be working with even bigger brands next year. And I'll be doing not just one-off posts for them. I'll be doing social campaigns for them, and like marketing campaigns for them. I also think next year I'll be acting as well. Um, I think I'll be doing more acting work, and I'll be doing a lot more comedy stuff as well. Like I plan to do my first stand-up this year as well.
Nice.
Yeah,
Local or where are we going?
far away from where I live as possible.
Yeah, that's what I
Uh,
was going to probably suggest.
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
I'll go up to
Tell me
Burnley.
where. I'm getting a ticket. I'll be
Nice.
front row. I'll cheer you on. I love a good old comedy show. I hope all that comes true, genuinely. I think, like I said, I know I keep sharing that we've had these conversations every year, but it's so good to see someone's path that they've just absolutely moved themselves. And I shared it to you as like, when we spoke the other day, what you do, I know about 3 people that do what you do. Right, one's Hung Lee, which we all know. All right,
Yeah. I'm seeing
so
him in a couple of weeks actually, and
can you tell him that he needs to come on the podcast? Because he told me twice that he's going to join me, and I
uh,
can't lock him in for a date. And now I feel like a naggy ex if I'm like text him a third time. So it's on you, Sean. If we get hung on the podcast, it's on you. No, he's a great
well,
guy.
he's going to be stuck on a boat with me in Barcelona for a few hours in a couple of
I
weeks.
mean, it's rude not to corner him and tell him about this. He knows about it. I'm just waiting for him to give me slots. I think every time he was away traveling or something, so time
Yeah,
slots wasn't working.
he's a busy guy. From
He
what I
is,
can
he
see,
is. I mean, but you've got Hung, you've got yourself, and you've got Dominic, and obviously Dominic's also been on the podcast before, and it's the three of you that at least I know are like holding down the fort of what this type of role looks like.
Mm.
Um, and you kind of all just, I don't want to say the word winging it, but almost in some way. Like there's no
There's a bit of it.
roadmap. Like it's trying, and I see your engagement between you all, and kind of it's a good support network. So I do urge if anyone wants to continue the conversation with you, always to find you, because I know a lot of the content side, it's so many people have a passion for this and want to do it, and they don't necessarily know how to take it to that next level. So thank you so much for joining and
My
being
pleasure.
honest and sharing us that you can make money from LinkedIn, not just write shit posts.
Yeah, not too many of them. But yeah, mate, absolute pleasure. I always love speaking to you, and yeah, I look forward to year 4.
Nice. Best of luck. Speak to you later.
Cheers, mate. See you later.